When you make a choice, you create consequences. A responsible choice is a choice that creates consequences for which you are willing to assume responsibility. The choice to forgive or not to forgive is no different than any other choice. It creates consequences. And those consequences are neither better nor worse. You're not punished or rewarded for what you choose to create. You simply create different experiences with different choices. What is forgiveness? And also important, why forgive? Forgive what? For what? When? And who? You may think it's the other person, but it's not. It's you. You are not forgiving someone else. You are changing an energy dynamic in you. As you change your intention from fear to love, you simply change your consequences. And choosing to forgive is one of those choices. Welcome back. I'm so glad to be with you again. Today we have a topic that's dear to my heart and has been all of my life. Maybe it's dear to your heart too. Maybe dearer than you think. That's forgiveness. What is forgiveness? And also important, why forgive? Things happen, let them go. Well, there's a difference between forgiveness and attaching to something. And it's very close. When you forgive, you are not forgiving someone else. You are changing an energy dynamic in you. For example, when you don't forgive, whatever it is, it's like walking through an airport with a backpack, and the backpack is full of rocks. And you've got a suitcase in either hand, not a rollerboard, nothing you can pull. You got to carry it. You got one hand, and one in the other. And they're both filled with rocks. How'd you like to go through an airport like that? A lot of people do. When you forgive, it's like putting down the suitcases, taking off the backpack, and walking away. That's what forgiveness is energetically. You lighten a load, not in another person. They may not even know that you forgave if forgiving them was the subject. They might not even care. But what about you? You carry that with you. You carry that load. When you don't forgive, it's a bit like having sunglasses, brand new sunglasses, but they're twisted and distorted, and they distort everything that you see. Not forgiving is like wearing sunglasses like that. And not only that, you want everybody else to see things the way you do. You're always saying, here, try these on for size. Do you know what he did to me? And they want you to look at him the way you're looking at him or her, without forgiveness, with anger, with judgment, with resentment, with competitiveness. So forgiveness is an energy dynamic. It's not a moral dynamic. It's not a thou shalt forgive. Forgive what? For what? When? And who? You may think it's the other person, but it's not. It's you. Many times on this podcast, and it's been a short podcast so far, I have pointed out to you, offered to you, suggested to you that a place to start your spiritual development is by turning your attention away from the outside world and putting it inside on you. Because when your attention is on the outside world, the assumption that you're making is that the outside world is responsible for whatever discomfort or pain or emotional experience that you're having. And so, to change that discomfort or pain, you need to change the outside world. That is the pursuit of external power. External power is the ability to manipulate and control. And you're doing your best to manipulate and control the world or someone else in it, or some situation in it when you're feeling emotional pain. Now, external power is the only kind of power that individuals with the old consciousness have. The old consciousness was limited to the five senses, to what can be seen and touched and heard and smelled and tasted. But the new consciousness is not limited by the five senses at all. And the only form or understanding or experience of power that individuals with the old consciousness have and can have is external manipulation and control. Now, the new consciousness is entering hundreds of millions of individuals, and you're one of them. The new consciousness comes with it, a potential of a new kind of power, authentic power. The alignment of your personality with your soul. Notice that doesn't have anything to do with the outside world. It has to do with you and your soul and what you're choosing and what you're doing and what you are experiencing. Everything that happens to you in your life happens for one reason only, and that is your spiritual development. We are in a learning environment. Call it the Earth School. It's a domain of time and space and matter and duality. None of these things exist outside of the Earth School. You will be in the Earth School until your soul returns home. And you entered the Earth School when you were born. The span between the entrance of your soul as an incarnation and the exit of your soul as the death of a personality is your life. Now, what we're talking about on this podcast and all of them is what you're going to do with that span of time, your life in the Earth School. I have a suggestion that you spend your time, which is using that span of experience to align your personality with the most meaningful, fulfilling, gratifying, pleasing. Pleasing isn't as good a word as gratifying. Experience as possible, with experiences that are the most meaningful to you. Now, the most meaningful experience that anyone can have is joy. Joy comes with meaning. So this is something to remember while you're in the Earth School. For me, I didn't use my life that way for about half of it, more than that actually. I used it, to make myself feel better about myself. I did it to try to live up to my expectations. That's why I volunteered for the Army. That's why I became an infantry officer. That's why I became an officer in the Special Forces or the Green Berets. During all that time and a little before and a lot after, I spent pursuing sex. Now, what does that mean? Of course, everyone knows what sex means. They think of pornography and sex like that. But sex is using someone else to satisfy your own sense of need. Well, everyone knows that. Unevolved, unaware men look for as much sex as they can because it feels good. But as your consciousness begins to change from the old to the new, it doesn't feel so good. Yeah, it's still got physical sensations to it, but other things become important to you, such as what you feel like inside. And what you are doing, let me put it this way, what I was doing, I discovered, was looking for women to exploit. Now, it wasn't as though I was necessarily taking advantage of them, because when you are in an addiction, in this case a sexual addiction, the people that you're drawn to and the people that are drawn to you are in the same energy. In other words, the women that I was using for sex didn't care any more about me or for me than I cared about them. And I didn't care about them at all. I wasn't interested in them. I was just interested in their genitals and their bodies. Now, what has this got to do with forgiveness? I didn't have anything to forgive them for. They were using me. I didn't have anything to forgive myself for. This seemed like the natural thing to do. And everyone else, all the other males I was around, were doing it. So where's forgiveness come into here? As I began to become aware of more in my life than pleasing myself, as I became aware of how remarkable this life is, and this didn't happen as an event, but as a process, an incremental process that happened over time, I began to see how frightened parts of my personality, the parts that are angry or jealous or resentful or impatient or superior or inferiority, were treating other people. And as my consciousness began to expand, I began to sense something unpleasant and unusual. That when I treated someone else without respect, I felt bad about it. And what I discovered was that the person I really had to forgive was me, because I didn't know any better. Maybe you don't know any better. Maybe you're starting to know better now because you're listening to this podcast. Well, I'm going to take back the word better. There isn't such a thing as better. It's just one half of a duality, and the other is worse. You can't have one without the other. So as you begin to expand in your consciousness, or your consciousness begins to expand in you, it's the same thing. Because as you're looking for your new consciousness as a new way of being that's more kind, that's more appreciative, that's more gentle, that's more caring, that consciousness is looking for you. And as you develop it, you begin to draw to yourself people who are like you as you are changing. And you are changing as one who is moving from concern about yourself to care about others. And you are drawing to yourself people who are making that same change, and your world begins to change. It's a wonderful experience, and everyone will have it. This is called the law of attraction. The law of attraction is this: energy attracts like energy. If you're brutal, using, exploiting, you draw to yourself brutal, using, exploiting people. And the world seems like it's a dog-eat-dog place, and the frightened parts of your personality use that perception to justify the fact that you're just a dog eating other dogs. But as you begin to see the world, the Earth School, as a learning environment, and begin to see that other people are important like you are, you begin to bring to you other people who begin to see you the same way, and your experience changes. That's what happens when you create authentic power. That's the alignment of your personality with your soul. I grew up for a large part in Kansas, and the state just next to Kansas is Missouri. And I could always tell their license plates because Missouri is the show me state. Show me, then I'll see it. That's the old consciousness. Show me, and then I'll believe it. Well, the new consciousness turns that upside down, inverts it. You'll see it when you believe it. When you move in the direction of believing that the world actually cares for you, that there's nothing but love, that the entire Earth School is love, and everything in it, including painful parts of your personality that originate in fear, including the experiences that activate them, that all of that in the Earth School itself comes from love, that there is nothing but love. Ooh, so where does the forgiveness enter into that larger picture? That comes from love also. As you begin to forgive others for what they've done to you, what you're actually doing is looking at them as parts of your personality that have wronged you, have betrayed you, have used you, have exploited you, have done all the things to you, in other words, that you've done to other people. And now you're experiencing other people doing that to you. That's karma in the East. It's a flawless, highly accurate, non-physical system. It's the universal, impersonal teacher of responsibility. Everything that you have created in others, you will create in yourself and experience in yourself until you make the connection between the choices you're making and the experiences you're creating for yourself. And as you begin to create experiences of love rather than experiences of fear, which means learn how to choose the loving parts of your personality when you're in a frightened part, which is anger, despair, those things, then you begin to see other people differently, draw other people with different energy to you, create different karma. It's all one exquisitely beautiful fabric, and you're a part of it. You couldn't not be. Everything is. So forgiveness, you might say, is central to this because love is central to this. Love is. It's not unconditional. It's not conditional. It's not something that happens sometimes and doesn't happen another. It is. The universe is love. And here's a remarkable thing about the consciousness that you are moving into. You begin to see yourself differently, not only in the ways that I've spoken, but you begin to see yourself not as a victim any longer of the world, but as an experiencer of the world. An experiencer of the world that determines the experiences that you will encounter. You encounter those experiences with your choices, including the choice to forgive or not to forgive. I said later that I wouldn't use the word better as the choice to forgive because there is no such thing as better. When you make a choice, you create consequences. You can think of that as a special kind of choice, conscious choice, a responsible choice. A responsible choice is a choice that creates consequences for which you are willing to assume responsibility. The choice to forgive or not to forgive is no different than any other choice. It creates consequences. And those consequences are neither better nor worse. You're not punished or rewarded for what you choose to create. You simply create different experiences with different choices. What makes the difference in a choice that creates painful experiences and a choice that creates blissful experiences? It's the choice of intention. What is an intention? An intention is a quality of consciousness that you bring to your deed or to your words. Love is a quality of consciousness, and fear is a quality of consciousness. When you speak or act from fear, you bring that quality of consciousness into your deeds and your words, and they create consequences for you. That's the moment of creating karma. That's the moment when energy becomes matter, and you are a powerful creator. And that's the moment in which you're creating your choice of intention and then acting consciously on that intention. You can act unconsciously on an intention of fear, of anger, of jealousy, and you will create just as powerfully. Just as powerfully. That's something to think about, isn't it? So when you change your intention from love to fear, and by the way, this is the fundamental duality in the Earth School, love and fear. The opposite of love is not hate, it's fear, jealousy, resentment, despair, anger, rage. Every obsession, compulsion, and addiction, that's fear. And when you choose it, you create painful consequences for yourself. You create karma. When you choose love to speak or act from love, you create different consequences. You create karma, but it's not the same karma. It's karma that feels good. And as you become a loving person, which means as you become authentically powerful, you begin to be able to move through the earth school with an empowered heart, without attachment to the outcome. Now we come all the way back to forgiveness and the suitcases and the pack filled with rocks and the sunglasses that brutally, horribly distort what you see. Putting down the suitcase and the pack cases, taking off the sunglasses and seeing clearly for the first time, that's forgiveness. And you walk away lighter, fresher, relieved, without that burden. And other people feel it. They feel it. You're not disconnected from anyone, and you never have been, and you never could be. You're never alone in the earth school. What you are choosing for yourself, you are choosing for all the collectives in which you participate and to which you contribute. You are contributing in a very direct and intimate way to what others experience and to the universe. We'll get to that in other podcasts. That's amazing to consider that. But the point now is, why not forgive? Why choose to carry the burden? Why choose to pack rocks? They're heavy. Why choose to look through brutal dark sunglasses when you can see in the sunshine, in the clear light, the beauty of flowers and trees and people? You don't get rewarded for it if you choose to forgive, and you don't get punished if you don't. You just create different consequences that you experience. In other words, you are consciously creating the experience of your life. That's what you do when you create authentic power. And until you do that, you create the experiences of your life unconsciously, and they're painful to encounter. And when you encounter them, you create again unconsciously, and more of the same happens and happens and happens and happens and happens and happens. I could say that in my entire lifetime, and I couldn't say it enough to begin to reflect how often that happens. And you can change it all now. So I'm going to give you something to do. Here's a soul step you can take. Look at the times in your life that you've not forgiven someone. Write it down. You're carrying a little notebook in your jean pocket or in your purse and a little pen. If you're not, get one and start to do that. So you can write things that are significant down. What are significant things? The sale price of a pair of running shoes? The time that a movie show begins? No, those are not significant. Whether you're choosing love or choosing fear, that's significant. Whether you are giving or taking, that's significant. Whether you're exploiting or contributing, that's significant. In other words, whether you are creating pain for yourself or bliss, that's significant, not because bliss is better, but why not experience it? But as you change your intention from fear to love, you simply change your consequences. And choosing to forgive is one of those choices. Like every one of the choices you make, it has far-reaching consequences. So in your notebook, here's your soul step. What I want you to write down is not only the times that you have forgiven someone else and haven't forgiven other people. Here's the fun part. Write in your journal, your portable journal or the one that's bigger at home, how many times have you not forgiven yourself for something you've done, including not forgiving? And how many times have you? And then consider these things that might have been previously unconscious to you, and see what's really important to you and how you might change as a result of that. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. I so enjoy our being together. I'm Gary Zukav.